The gospel reading for today is from John. There were some Greeks in town who had come up to worship at the feast. They approached Philip, who was from Bethsaida in Galilee. "Sir, we want to see Jesus. Can you help us?" Philip went and told Andrew. Andrew and Philip together told Jesus. And Jesus answered, "Time's up. The time has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. Listen carefully. Unless a grain of wheat is buried in the ground, dead to the world, it is never any more than a grain of wheat. But if it is buried, it sprouts and reproduces itself many times over. In the same way, anyone who holds on to life just as it is destroys that life. But if you let it go, reckless in your love, you'll have it forever, real and eternal. If any of you wants to serve me, then follow me. Then you'll be where I am, ready to serve at a moment's notice. The Father will honor and reward anyone who serves me. Right now, I am storm-tossed. And what am I going to say? Father, get me out of this? No. This is why I came in the first place. I'll say, Father, put your glory on display. A voice came out of the sky. I have glorified it, and I'll glorify it again. The listening crowd said, thunder. Others said, an angel spoke to him. Jesus said, the voice didn't come from me, but for you. At this moment, the world is in crisis. Now Satan, the ruler of this world, will be thrown out, and I, as I am, lifted up from the earth, will attract everyone to me and gather them around me. He put it this way to show how he was going to be put to death. Voices from the crowd answered, we heard from God's law that the Messiah lasts forever. How can it be necessary, as you put it, that the Son of Man be lifted up? Who is this Son of Man? Jesus said, for a brief time still, the light is among you. Walk by the light you have so that darkness doesn't destroy you. If you walk in darkness, you don't know where you're going. As you have the light, believe in the light. Then the light will be within you, shining through your lives. You'll be children of light. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. So I would like to do a brief meditation on just a couple of aspects of this very rich passage from John, as well as the liturgical season we're in. First, I want to say I think it is a good thing to take a slow, deliberate journey through Holy Week. And if you want a good resource for doing this, I suggest a book co-authored by Marcus Borg and John Dominic Crossan called The Last Week. Over the years, both of these men have spoken right here in this church. The second thing I would say is that though the lectionary has us going through the Lenten Easter season using the Gospel of John, John is not the best source for a historical reconstruction of the last week leading up to Easter. That source would be Mark. The third thing I would say is that what I just said is in no way to slight the Gospel of John. I think the Gospel of John is the richest and most mystical gospel that we have. So I want to reflect just briefly on two gems that are in this passage. There are many. I begin by reflecting on the fact that in all of the Bible, God is said to be three things only three times. And all of these things are in the Gospel of John. In John, God is referred to as love, as spirit, and as light. Now, in every religious tradition that I know of, light plays a crucial role. On Sundays, when we gather for worship here, the acolytes begin our worship by bringing lit candles down the aisle and lighting candles here in the chancel. And when the service is over, they extinguish the candles in the chancel and carry a lit candle out of the sanctuary. This is to symbolize Jesus' teaching that we are to be the light of the world. We bring this light in to enlighten our worship, and when worship is over, we take the light back into the world and into the various worlds where we live out our lives. Jesus, who is to be our model, saw the light of God everywhere he looked. He saw it in the flowers of the field. He saw it in the birds of the air. He saw it in people his society calls sinners. He saw it in the sick. He saw God in everything and everyone. And one of his great indictments, as he put it, is, you have eyes, but you don't see. In Buddhism, the goal of doing spiritual work is to become enlightened. It is the same thing with those of us who seek to follow Jesus and to embody his teachings. Jesus continually told those to whom he spoke to look inside yourself, to see the image and likeness in which you were created and bring that into the world. But the sad fact is that we who have been born and raised in this country have been trained not to see. To move in the direction of seeing requires a committed, contemplative practice. We have, for example, been taught by much religion to see the events of Holy Week as something Jesus did for us. It is much more an enlightened position to see the events of Holy Week as something we did to Jesus. The other theme I want to reflect on very briefly that comes from this passage today is the theme of letting go. Once again, the culture in which we live, and I would remind you that the word culture has the same root word as the word cult. Our culture teaches us that life is mostly about attaining, about achieving, about climbing the ladder, about gaining, winning. The path that Jesus walked and talked is the path of letting go, the path of descent. Unless, taught Jesus, a person loses her or his life, that person cannot have life. Most of us will likely not be called to stick to our convictions in such a way that we suffer the same consequences that Jesus did, but still there is some letting go to be done. One of the most exciting things I've encountered in the last number of years has been the insights and teachings that have come from people like Ilia Delio, Michael Moore Wood, Judy Canato, other evolutionary cosmologists and theologians. In light of their teachings, we're having to rethink, that means letting go, a lot of our theological categories. Now, as I said, for me, this is very exciting. For many others, it's more than they can tolerate. This is one way that I personally understand the movement toward authoritarianism that is taking place in our religious institutions and all over the globe in political institutions. Those who put together the Gospel of John had come to a new and expanded understanding of God, of themselves, and of Jesus. And they did this out of their experience with Jesus. Now, what this meant was that they were excommunicated by the leaders of the synagogues that they belonged to. So please, when you hear readings later on in Holy Week from John that paint the Jews in such harsh light, keep in mind that John was written by Jews. The Jews they are questioning and accusing in John are those who were unwilling to let go of an old way in order to make room for a new one. The Gospel of John is not about religion. It's not about sin. It's not about salvation. It is about expanded life and living through an expanded consciousness. It's about living in light. It's about being a light in the world. It's about a life that we both experience and express. when we are willing to let go and let God. For the writers of John, and for the community that produced this writing, God was not perceived as a being. God was not distant. God was not otherworldly. John understands God to be a verb, an energy that is calling and forming, shaping not only us, but all creation into being all that we were created to be. It is this life-expanding oneness with God to which the events of Holy Week are calling us.